Hello, it's me, Dries! So the leveling ended, but you still want some more Jinwoo action. I got you. Well, Nekros does. Warframe's Necromancer. Okay, let's see what he's about. Passive. For every enemy that dies within 10 meters of you, regen 5 HP. First ability, Soul Punch. Air punch an enemy, kicking it away, dealing small damage in an AoE, and to enemies getting hit by the flying dude. Your position and the enemy's position will affect how they get kicked away. If the enemy survives, it's marked for 3 seconds. If you kill them within the 3 seconds, they turn into a shadow. If the enemy has less than 25% HP, they just die and the shadow spawns on their death point, so they get executed. This 25% can't be affected sadly, so War, Vibro and stuff won't change that it's 25% to kill them. The shadow is scaled with the enemy's level, so if your Soul Punch hits an enemy level 2, the shadow will be level 2. If it hits a level 230, it will be level 230. The skill is Silent. Augment, Soul Survivor. Use on a downed ally to revive them with 30% HP. It scales with strength. Second ability, Terrify. Make yourself appear big, terrifying a number of enemies around you, making them run away, and lose a portion of their armor. You can fully armor strip at 167% strength, or 137% if you have corrosive projection. Enemies with overguard get stripped, but don't run away, doesn't affect bosses too. It is Nekros' Subsumed. Augment, Creeping Terrify. Affected enemies have a 60% reduced movement speed, and it caps at 80% when you have 135% strength. Third ability, Desecrate. When active, bodies around you will be consumed, to possibly reroll the loot you earned and spawn an health orb, meaning you can get more loot. On top of that, big body parts, so upper body and lower body, count as different corpses, so you can double the effect. You can cut a body in half by killing them with slash damage on their torso. The ability consumes up to 3 body per second, and it drains 10 energy per corpse consumed. It works for their normal loot table, which includes power cells and life support modules, though it doesn't work for reactants in fissures. It's capped at 60% chance to drop an health orb and 54% to reroll their loot table. All this means that if you're lucky on a single enemy, you can drop up to 4 health orbs, I think. Desecrate stacks with most additional loot reroll things, like Ivara's Sprawl, Atlas's or Geyser, Hydrate, Korra, Wukong, but not with other Desecrates or Chesakubo's Retrieve. Desecrate is a channel ability, so you can get attacked while in Operator in Steel Path. But it doesn't cost energy per second, so it doesn't stop any sources of energy regen, like Zenrix, Wellspring and stuff like that. Unlike most channeled abilities, it isn't affected by duration. Enemies affected by the frozen status will not count as multiple body parts when they're shattered. Same thing with petrified enemies. They can't count as 2 bodies. You can't desecrate some enemies like some bosses, though like Grustag 3, Corrupted Vor do work. Desecrate can't work on enemies that explode on death. Augment, Despoil. Instead of consuming energy, it consumes health. Fourth ability, Shadow of the Dead. When you kill an enemy, they are stored in a list, up to 20 enemies in the list. Newly killed enemies will replace older ones. It has a target priority. Pause the video if you wanna read it, or check the wiki. On cast, you summon up to 7 enemies from this list, with buffs, like increased damage, shield and health. Each shadow loses 3% of their health per second. It's affected by duration. They can be attacked by enemies but not by allies. Their damage is affected by crit. Recasting the ability when at least 1 shadow is alive will heal them. Killing an enemy with Soul Punch also heals them. You can't cancel the ability, even Nullifiers and Violence can't remove the shadows unless they kill them. You can summon enemies that can themselves summon other enemies, like Drak Master summoning Drax, and stuff like that. These summons won't count for the 7 shadows cap. If you recast the ability when you have 7 shadows, the animation will be shorter. When a shadow spawns, it knocks down surrounding enemies. Shadows have a high threat level. They don't have collisions with players. If a shadow enters a Nullifier's bubble, it will be drained of its HP. If Nekros enters a bubble, nothing will happen to his shadows. You can't copy bosses, Desert Skates, Lachas, Kuva Guardians, though you can copy Zanuka. Keep in mind that the animation is super long. And you have no protection, you can still get knocked down, take damage, and stuff like that. Now comes the magic. You can carefully pick which shadow you want for various effects. Like Guardian Exhibits to give you insane damage reduction, paired with the Augment to be nearly unkillable. Or Shield Ospreys to have no shield issues. Ancient units are really interesting too, and most Eximus should be considered as well. Something worth noting, Oberon's Renew won't work on shadows, so if you have too many shadows and an Oberon, it will drain all of his energy really quickly. Some shadows, like crewmen, can hack Bursas, Ambulas and stuff like that. Casting 4 also TPs your companions to you, so it includes shadows, pets, or even uncalled crew members. Shadows do count as summoned allies, so buffs like Arcane Camisado, Summoner's Wrath will work on them. Augment, Shield of Shadows. Redirect a percent of the damage Nekros received with shadows, scales with strength, capped at 90%. Summons from your shadows also count, so if you copy summoners, like Drakmasters, you can easily reach 90% with low strength. Recap. Passive, heals you, Soul Punch, Silly CC, Finishers, Open to Finishers, create a shadow, insta-revive allies. Terrify, Armor Strips, nice CC. Desecrate, increase loot, drops health orbs. Shadow of the Dead, bodyguards that act as decoys, DPS, support, tanking. Helminth, as always anything that helps with damage, so like Nourish, Tempest Barrage with its augment, Rest and Rage, Petrify. Though keep in mind that you can change Soul Punch's finisher damage, it will always be 25%. I'm not sure about this, but I think Shock Trooper and Smite Infusion work on the shadows, though Thermal Transfer doesn't seem to work. Of course Nourish does work too. Now, if having shadows isn't enough, you can run Desiccation with its augment or Mind Control. Something that's pretty fun to run is Breach Surge, especially with the 4. Some shadows will work wonderfully with some abilities, like Jade Eximus with Breach Surge. Now, if you want a farming Nekros, you can run Petrify with its augment alongside Desecrate. Just keep in mind that it looks like petrified enemies can't count as two separate body parts. Subsumed I haven't really tried yet with Nekros, but sounds promising is Eclipse for a full health tank build. I tried it at intended levels, in Steel Path, but not level cap. You can also rely on Blood Altar to constantly heal your shadows, as they lose their HP, so you don't have to pay attention to this, unless they are under heavy fires, but then you can get a nullifier shadow or something, so they can be safe. If you decide to run some AoE shadows, like Bombards, Napalm, etc., you can run grouping abilities. That sounds fun. Tesla Nervos, with its augment, can give you some really interesting results with 4, which would basically make them nuke. Especially Jade Eximus. I also consider running Reeve, cause you know, Wraith things, but I couldn't find any interesting synergies. Unless you get a shadow that applies very well, but that's way too niche for me. You can try an Evade build too with Arcane Crepuscular. You can also run weapon platform subsumes, but since there are things you can run on anyone, I don't think it's worth mentioning. I should also mention that things like Warcry, Eclipse and Shooting Gallery do work on the shadows. Invigorations. Duration is probably the most popular one for the shadows alongside strength and range. Well, it's basically what I say for all the frames. Though I speak from hearsay since I'm not a Nekros player. I actually don't really know. Though for the Eclipse build, efficiency would probably be neat. Shards. So for this, I'd probably go for strength for the Gloom build and the Petrify build, but also armor or health ones for the Eclipse build. I'd probably recommend at least one toe casting speed though, especially if you play the 4 cause it's extremely long. Now if you wanna do a silly, you can run plus ability damage on element and try to turn an enemy that applies these elements into shadows. And well, if you don't really care about any of this, you can run Parkour Velocity too. Build. For the average build, I would run something like this. For a beginner build, this would be enough. I do the same on every frame to be honest. For some more advanced beginners build, I'd probably do this. Now for the Helminth build, for the damage ones, they're focused on the 4 and you want strength and duration with an OK range. On the empty slot, you can run Shield of Shadows for comfort. If you wanna use the 1 for the shadows, you can do it of course. I just prefer the 4th, but both do basically the same thing, except that the 1 is one at a time, but lets you choose the target. Though keep in mind, if you subsume over the 4, you can run Precision Intensify. I don't really use it, but for a Petrify build it can be nice. You can also run Ripcast with the Ripcast Amalgam mod to give all the weapons you have a 100% gore chance, meaning enemies that die without being petrified will still have a chance to drop more loot. If you have energy issues, you can run a Death Cube build like this. For the Shock Trooper and Smite Infusion build, you want similar builds, but range won't matter as much. For the Desiccation build, I didn't really know what I wanted, so I just threw some duration and some strength. In most cases, I've removed Desecrate since it's only here for additional loot and health orbs, which I won't need. I'm missing a mod here cause I'm too lazy to get an Omnia former. Although not necessary, Arcane Camisado does help a lot generally speaking. Here's what I did for the Eclipse build. I'm tempted to replace Arcane Blessing with Arcane Ultimatum and run health shards instead of armor shards. That way if I die I still have my max health while it gets reset when Arcane Blessing is being used. It's an issue I ran into when I tried my Rev health tank build and was quite painful. Got jumped by like 10 Thrax and, well, couldn't really tank much. Arcane Ultimatum requires you to do finishes to get 1200 armor, and since Nekros is one forces finisher, it's very easy with something like a Zoe, framing, etc. Just make sure you kill enemies with finishers every 40-ish seconds. Just so you know, if you wanna keep it at internet levels, this build should work wonderfully, as long as you remain airborne as often as possible. For a Blood Altar build, you'd probably want some range. I haven't made one myself, but a friend who mains Nekros told me so. Similar reasoning for the grouping abilities and the Tesla Bank build. Mostly range and some strength. What matters is that you find the build comfortable, so you might have to tweak the builds to suit you. Subsumed Terrify. I don't really like it, but I know people use it as a good armor stripping ability. Also the armor strip is only temporary, the ability's duration is long enough, so it's fine. You can also use it as a CC, or on Rev to change the Lysa movement. It's useless but silly. Weaknesses. He only has one ability that can actually deal damage, well technically two, since the 1 and 4 are a thing, but they're basically the same ability. His passive is quite underwhelming, but I'm a Revmate so I'm used to it. Terrify makes enemies run away while I want them to come to me. At some levels, like 150 to 600, you might need priming, armor stripping, etc. to make his shadow kill efficiently. His 4th cast time is humongously slow. His 1 throws enemy away. It can be good, but in most cases it's annoying to me. Like Bench's 1. Eximus don't get CC'd by Terrify. Cosmetics. Opinion. Overall he's pretty fun, even though I wished his 1 and 4 were in the same ability slot, like the 1 would be a press and the 4th would be an hold. And managing his shadows, picking the ones you want for specific purposes is definitely really cool and fun. He can be a great raw tanking frame, which I love, and his armor stripping is really accessible and easy to use. He's quite a polyvalent boy too. Just a little thing before ending. Until now, for these videos, I talked about frames I already knew, like Revenant, Protea and Vauban. So I still do research and testing, but I normally already have a lot of things I can say. For Nekros and Sevagoth, I mostly learn from researching, testing, but also thanks to friends who main these frames. Like, for the Sevagoth video it's Sombra, and for the Nekros video it's Amy Turtle. I often have some other people giving me ideas about stuff to try too. So yeah, that was just a heads up to say that most interactions I talk about in this video came from Amy Turtle. Also, when you watch these videos, you might wanna check the comments. Sometimes some people who know the frames much more than I do post some detailed answers and some additional tips that might interest you. Like on the Seva video. It's also worth noting that I knew Vauban, but not as much as I knew Rev, so to help me make a video I had another friend who's a Vauban main, Scoop, who helped me test stuff and learn stuff. If you guys wanna take part like in future videos, cause I'm planning to cover every frame, or add things I forgot to mention, feel free to comment or tell me in the official Warframe Discord play Warframe, because apart from a couple frames I barely know most of the other frames. I know they're kit, but I don't know many interactions. Thank you for watching. Now you're Jinwo. Remember to have fun. Adios.